So it started in the beginning. It was four of us: me, Fraser West, the drummer, and the two Gillespie brothers, Daniel and Martin. And I sort of went on holiday to Tyree, where the Gillespie brothers are from. Fraser and I went on holiday there. We sort of met the Gillespies, and then there was just some sort of like leaving do for one of my teachers at school. I was asked to put some sort of band together to play sort of Cayley stuff, and I was like, well, I actually just met some guys when I was on holiday with Fraser that would do that kind of thing. So it was actually just Daniel, myself, and Fraser that got together, and we just made up. Daniel played tunes on the accordion, Fraser made stuff up on a snare drum, and I made up the chords on the guitar, not knowing what chords really are technically supposed to go with it and all that. Didn't know anything about that kind of music. And then once we sort of the four of us moved to Glasgow to go to uni, we started to just try and get a couple of gigs here and there doing that sort of thing, like people's weddings and stuff like that. We did a lot of that at the start. And that's literally all it started as. It was just like fun and extra money and us just making it up. We weren't trying to be like, you get garage bands who are like, we're going to be like, Nirvana, or we're going to be like, we were never like that. It was just like playing tunes and trying to figure out what the chords were mostly. And it just sort of like word of mouth just kept, turning over, and we do more and more of these gigs. And eventually going to uni with Craig, we thought we'd try and build up the sound more. Craig came in on fiddle. We added bass guitar, and so it just started to grow and grow. But basically, we only even came up with the name because we decided to record an album. And we're like, well, we need to be called something, So it really was just totally organically, a fun thing that kept going 20 years, and here we are, Skerryvore's a lighthouse. It's how many miles off the coast of Tyree? 7 miles or something, maybe?
14, I think.
Is it as long as that, is it? Yeah, so it's a famous lighthouse built by like the Stevenson family. And because it was just such like a landmark thing off the coast of the island where the music started, somebody suggested it to us because we couldn't think of a name, to be quite honest. So we're like, yeah, great, that sounds good. And then quite quickly you realise that when you say Skerryvore to a lot of people, they don't know what you've just said to them. So, and you're like, you spell it and they're like, what? You're like, oh, we should have called it something
It's
easier.
actually one of those rare words that's actually, in other languages, people get it because they don't have a preconception of what you're trying to say. Whereas if you try and say that in Glasgow, folk think you're saying scary, as in scary.
He's scary.
He's
Skerryvore or
really
something.
scary, so yeah.
But it's too late to go back.
Not the best name.
It's too late to go back now, but I think the audience last night here was kind of like how we're received in Scotland, probably, where we're best known kind of thing. So that's where our biggest gigs are throughout the world. Whenever we go anywhere else, we're never really sure how many people there are going to be like already fans, and especially at a festival, how many people you're just trying to win over straight off the bat. So I think even for us last night it was quite a surprise because we've been here once before in 2019. And we had a great time then, but it seems that the festival's gotten even bigger, and that stage is just absolutely huge, the Shebeen tent last night. So yeah, we were delighted with how it was received, yeah.
It was nice because I think, like, being on such a big stage, we're not used to big stages quite as big as that all the time, but we play a lot of kind of like bigger gigs in Scotland and Europe and America compared to what we've been playing over the past week. In Australia being our first tour. So it's been great fun going back and playing like really small kind of club venues, but we felt a wee bit kind of like let loose again last night, I think, because we had a bit more freedom to like actually move rather than just like being stuck in one position. So yeah, but the audience was incredible, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, and like we said, it does feel quite like a Scottish festival, in terms of that community spirit and the kind of, it's like family friendly and all that as well. And we were saying on the walking here on the way in, actually some of the pubs and stuff and the churches look really Scottish as well. Like they look like they're just like what the churches that are on the Scottish Islands and stuff, so it really does feel like home.
Yeah, I think we're involved, like Daniel from the band organises a festival back home on the island of Tyree, which is where the band started, and we're all involved and we play the festival every year. It's a much smaller festival compared to here. I mean, the island has only got 500 people who live in the island, and the festival goes up to 2,500, 3,000 people, but it's similar, you know, scalable to Port Fairy. You got a small community that becomes huge for one weekend of the year, and it's, you know, it's very much, it feels like the same type of thing. It's the festival's a community. It's not just a festival where people happen to go and that kind of thing. It seems like it's got that nice kind of thing that we get a lot of festivals in Scotland where it's, you know, you can tell it's the same people who come back every year and they meet up and they interact with each other, and you know, it's a special place rather than just being a bunch of people who randomly come to a festival because they fancy hearing a band, you know. So we tour a lot in Europe and in the United States as well as the UK, and it certainly feels, Australia, I think, feels more like Scotland than any of these places. Like, we don't need to work hard to win an audience as much as we might have to do in the United States, for example.
And everybody understands what we're saying in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, there you go. So the Scottish accent and the rest of the world is just like, you're constantly saying everything like 2 or 3 times, but the Aussies seem to get it. I don't know.